Baba, your recap is this. Let's have a recap.
Children crying on the streets, automobiles are making noise. The land is growing dry and weak, spirits dying low. Before fathers are calling me and never tired, never weakened. The pride in me is bursting loose. Burn African boy.
It is another beautiful hour on the African Portal Radio TV International. Welcome everyone to another beautiful, lovely time in the studio as we'll be hosting one of our very own, all the way from Pensioner FM, Agbarigo, Onireke, Ibadan on the African Portal Radio TV this hour. It's going to be a beautiful, lovely time. The song we come in with is beautiful Nobia, Seven Lives. It's happening raw right here as South Africa is preparing to celebrate the Heritage Day. This is our Heritage Week, and we will be hosting different people that's holding a very important position in our community. And I have Mr. Pius Nsabe with me in the studio that will be having the conversation together. We'll be discussing about the challenges facing the media world and about the growth and the progress that the technology bring to the media space. Those are the things that we'll be having conversation on. But before that, let's enjoy this song a bit further before we continue on this program. God bless you.
In the evening, mother called me down into her heart. She said, lay upon my bosom and say a few prayers. Then she told me to go forward, never looking back.
Mr. Pius Nsabe, it's a pleasure to have you on the African Portal Radio here in Pretoria, South Africa. How are you today?
Thank you, my brother. I'm very fine. Hi, South Africa.
We're doing very well. We're doing very well. By His grace, we're getting there. South Africa is
Thank you so much
peaceful,
for having
lovely.
me in the program.
I'm so glad as well to have you on board. God bless you. How's Nigeria today and how's Ibadan? How's Pensioner FM today?
Well, we are doing fine. It was just drizzling here in Ibadan moments ago, but I think it has stopped. So far, Ibadan is cool. Nigeria is calm, except that our president is not in the country as we speak. Of course, you should
Mm,
understand is at the ongoing United Nations General Assembly in New York, United States.
indeed. Indeed. Mr. President is out of the country to attend the UN program in United States of America as the UN opening the meeting today, and the president of this, most of the president of the world, actually is going to be present in that great gathering. As a media
Definitely.
practitioner and as a media professional, we are part of the solution to our community, most especially challenges facing Africa. And we also the voice of the people. We speak for the voiceless, and we are the face of the people. Those are the things that we'll be engaging on. But before that, Mr. Pius, I want you to do me a favor. I want a lot of people to join this broadcast. I can see Otuba about today. You, thank you very much. Very small because this conversation is cut across and it will involve many of us, especially those of us that we are media, we are in the media space, so we should be having conversation. But before that, Mr. Pius, let me firstly do this. We do this a lot on the African portal. One of the problem we have in Africa is we don't appreciate ourselves when we are here. People don't celebrate, they don't appreciate others people for what they are doing. But we are changing that narrative on the African portal by celebrating people. So let me use this time to celebrate you and say, well done. You are the head of the news department at the Pensioner FM. Well done for the great job that you are doing. We celebrate you.
Thank,
You're raising the
thank you very
banner
much.
and you are one of the boys. We appreciate what you are doing. We see your work, we see what you are doing, and we appreciate it. And we say, well done for the great job that you are doing in Nigeria, in Ibadan, in Pensioner FM. First, Pensioner FM. We can say first labor radio in Africa
In
and in the
Africa,
world.
yeah,
All right.
that's
Thank
the
you very
pride
much.
ourselves. Mm.
I'm so delighted. I'm so happy to have you on board. But let me do this, Mr. Pius. Let me give you opportunity to introduce yourself to the listeners at home. Who you are, where you are, and the position you hold in the society.
Okay. Well, simply put, my name is Pius Nsabe, and like you rightly introduced me, I'm the head of news at Pensioners 106.7 FM Agbarigo Onireke Ibadan, Nigeria, West Africa. Um, we've been in this station for the last 2 years. By the 27th of this month, to the glory of God, our station, Pensioners 106.7 FM, will be 2 years that we started transmission. I mean, real transmission, aside the initial test transmission that we were doing. So I'm really, really delighted to be on your program this evening. And I also like to use this opportunity to thank my good friend and general manager, Dr. Babatunde Tiami, who facilitated my being on the program this evening. And to you guys too out there, the African Portal, you are doing us proud, and we're extremely proud of you.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. Mr. Pius, let me take you back to the line of history because I like to actually know where you're coming from. Because if we fail to know where we're coming from, we may find it difficult to know where we are going to. Let me take you back to the line of history. What is Jordan like? How do you get to where you are? Where are you coming from?
What a journey it has been, actually. Well, before I take you to where I am coming from, I would like to say that what will be will be. I remember
Hmm.
when I was growing up, I lost my mother at some point at an early age. And one of the women who came to comfort us then said something to me because I was asking her, now that my mother, who was a backbone to me, was gone, where was I going to me? What you will be is what you will be. I didn't understand that at the time because growing up, I had wanted to be a medical doctor.
Hmm.
I had said I wanted to be a medical doctor. You know, as a young kid who was probably brilliant at that age, a lot of people will tell you, wow, you are a product for medicine, you are a product for engineering. But because I didn't really like engineering per se, I opted for medicine and I said I was going to be a medical doctor. So when it was time for me to, I mean, at the senior secondary school level, to choose the subjects that I will write for my senior school certificate examination, I went for the sciences. You know, we had this pride in us that being a science student, of course, you are superior, so to speak, to those in the arts. But when I look back today, I keep telling myself that if only I knew. And so I did my best with the sciences. I wanted to be a medical doctor, but the death of my mom actually put paid to that dream. It couldn't come to fruition. So eventually, I settled for what I would call a related field, which is the biological sciences. So I studied zoology in the University of Ibadan. But while I was in the University of Ibadan, I discovered myself in a way because the university provided opportunity for those who had flair for writing to express themselves by way of campus journalism, departmental journalism, fellowship journalism, and all that. And so I started writing, and I realized that the more I wrote, the more I fell in love with the profession journalism. But deep in my heart, I didn't know that if you read sciences, you could, at some point in your life, decide to go back to your dream. I realized that I had fallen in love with the profession, but I never actually knew that one day I was going to be a journalist. Until when I graduated and then I started working, I taught in a secondary school, biology, basic sciences. But while in that school, I initiated a press club. And I saw that apart from my own passion, the children also had passion in the press club. There was never a press club in that school. And so I saw that we were doing well. I had two options, either to further to do masters in my along the line of my discipline and then end up as a university lecturer, which had also been my dream at some point, or better still, to go to diversify into journalism. But then I didn't even know where to start. But one day I was listening to Radio Nigeria Network News and I heard publicity about the Radio Nigeria Training School for those who had interest in journalism, who probably didn't have a background in journalism. And so I decided to apply. And lo and behold, I applied to do basic journalism in that school. To tell you how passionate I was about it, even when I didn't have any support financially from anywhere, I had to resign from my job to train myself in that school. It was an 8-week program then. And I did it, first of all, when we wrote the exam, about 120 students who wrote the entrance exam into that school. I made, if not the best results, I would say I was among the first 3 best results into the entrance into that school. And by the time we were rounding off our program for basic journalism, despite the so many professionals who had been practicing the profession, who came in, who were sent in there by their various platforms to train, I still outdid them. And I made the best results in my set of about 120 or so students. And so it was then and there I decided that this was going to be my career. But where did I even begin from? I didn't even have anybody. I didn't even know anybody, in the media profession to assist me. I had to talk to a colleague at that training school who was a staff of Radio Nigeria. And she told me to approach one of the bigger guys at Radio Nigeria Lagos, the DLO, the Director of Lagos Operations then. I didn't know him from Adams. And I went to him and I told him, sir, I just rounded off a program in journalism and I have interest in this thing. Could you please give me a platform to express myself? And so the man told me they weren't going to retain me. I said, no problem. I will do it out of passion. So to cut the long story short, it was he who first gave me the opportunity, and I was sent to Radio 1 then, and I started doing some things. Of course, although it was strange, knowing that some of these voices I had been hearing on radio, I would be meeting them for the first time, having to work with them and all that. But it wasn't so difficult for me to blend because I had always been a keen listener to Radio Nigeria Network, the way my dad brought me up, because I had always carried his transistor radio for him at any point in time when he wanted to listen to the news. So I easily blended. And eventually I worked in Radio Nigeria for about 3 years. The better part of it, I wasn't being paid a dime. I was just getting the experience. They used me for a lot of things. As a young person, at times they send you on assignments, particularly the ones that were not profitable. But they were training you in a way. And I just realized that. And I was getting more, loaded as far as the career was concerned. So after about 3 years in Radio Nigeria, I got an offer with a private radio station, one of the big names in the industry here in Nigeria, talking about Inspiration FM. And so they gave me an employment, and I moved in here to Ibadan as news editor and reporter. And that was where I had been until I got this job with Pensioners FM. First of all, I was employed as chief editor, and then later on, I was upgraded to the head of news. So that is my story. There are so many angles to it, but obviously, we can't use this platform alone to talk about it all.
Exactly. I intentionally keep quiet to listen to you because from every life there is a story to tell. And that is one of the things that African Potter is all about. We want to tell African story. You know, in the past, some people decide to tell African story by themselves. They tell our story for us. I mean, they write whatever they want to write. Sometimes they say we are monkeys. Sometimes they say Africa is a jungle. Sometimes they say you dare not go there because those people they don't organize. But we
Yes,
want to change the narrative by telling our story by ourselves. This is a beautiful
definitely,
story that you are
definitely.
telling now, and I believe that some people are connecting to this story. You rose from nothing to something. You're coming from the background where there is nothing, but you make it to the limelight,
Yes,
of
and
which
let me
you.
add that thereafter, I had gone ahead to do a postgraduate diploma in journalism, and I'm looking forward to also in the months ahead, perhaps start a master's program in communications somewhere too. So I'm working on all that just to add some value to my person on the job.
Wow, 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 wow. This is the somebody that went to University of Ibadan to study science
Zoology,
courses,
yes,
but today is now in the media space. You know, educational system in Africa needs to be addressed. That is one of the things I keep on telling people. Sometimes you can say whatever you want to say, but it's only you that you will discover yourself. It's only you that you will know what God have deposited inside you. You know,
definitely.
there is something they used to say that the what you know is better than what you learn, and what you
Mm,
know is what you are created with, and that is
absolutely.
the fact. So I'm
Absolutely.
really enjoying myself with your conversation. I mean, with your information and with the background and history of where you are coming from. But let's quickly check this. Which city exactly are you from? Tell us a bit about the city. Thank you very much, Kumo Africa.
You mean my city of origin?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, if you are to talk of city, perhaps I would use my state capital. I'm actually from Cross River State. And so if I'm to talk about the city, I would attribute that to Calabar, which is the state capital. Okay? That's about the most pronounced
Hmm.
city in Cross River State. But if you are to narrow it down
Wow,
to
wow.
perhaps the closest city to my local government, which is Boki local government, then we begin to talk of a town like Ikom and then Ugoja. Okay?
Goja.
Now,
Hmm,
basically,
hmm,
the people of Cross River State, they are known, number one, for it's more like an agrarian state, particularly my own axis
hmm,
of the state, which is the central
hmm.
senatorial district. It's a forest
Indeed.
region, just like we have large in Western Nigeria, where you see crops like cocoa, banana, plantain, rubber. Just think of any crop you can think of
Hmm,
in the forest region like Western Nigeria. That is what we have
hmm,
in the Cross River Senatorial District. I mean, Cross River Central Senatorial District, where I come from. And then up
hmm,
north, Cross River North is more of grassland. That is the one that is bound by Benue State, up north of the state. It's majorly grassland, and so you have crops majorly like cassava, groundnut, and the rest of them. Down
hmm,
south of Cross River State is actually the coastal area where Calabar, the state capital, is. You know, we don't have so much of agriculture there. We have more fishing, and that's why when you go to Calabar, you have a lot of crayfish, you have a lot of seafood in Calabar. So basically, I would say that Cross River as a state is diverse from what I have told you now. It has
hmm,
different cultural backgrounds. It's a multilingual state. In fact,
hmm,
in a local government alone, you have five, six, or seven different languages spoken in Cross River
hmm,
State. So it's not a monolingual state like you have here in the West, where every Yoruba man would speak Yoruba. In fact, if 10 Cross Riverians are sitting here today, there's no way all of us will be able to communicate in the same language. The man from the cross south will be speaking the Efik, that's the Calabar. Myself, I'll be speaking Buki language. Then the man in Cross River North will be speaking languages ranging from Yala to Ishibori to Ukele, and so many of them. Some of these languages you may not have heard of them before, but that's Cross
No,
River.
I did. I did, and I'm so happy that you go into that because it's very important. It's one of the area where I'm taking you to. That is why I have to take you through the journey so that you can end up in telling me exactly the language you speak and the background you're coming from. But before we continue on this program, before I took you to how do you arrive where you are now, let me quickly allow you to greet everybody in Cross River State in the language they understand, because that is what the African Portal is stood for. I mean, we are promoting African culture, African language. Definitely, we are using English as a medium of communication, but sometimes I'm not comfortable using this language that I'm speaking right now. I'm so comfortable with African language because we are Africa, because we are born in Africa, and it's time for us to promote our own language and dialect. Let me give you opportunity to please greet everyone and present yourself back to them in your language.
I would have loved to speak the Efik language, which is the most popular in Cross River State, which is widely spoken in Calabar, the Cross River State capital. But unfortunately, I don't understand Efik. So let me speak my own language to my own people in Boki local government area. And because it's evening now in Nigeria, I will tell them Bukiba Akude Agafobeno. I'm greeting them good evening. So if it was morning, I would have said Bye Jobede, meaning good morning. Have you woken up from sleep? That's the direct translation, but it simply means good morning, putting it in context. So once again, let me greet my people. Buki, Bakude, Agafobeno. Wherever they are now, they will be responding.
Wow, that is beautiful. Okay, that is lovely. Let me also use that opportunity also to go back to my own language, native language, to greet the people in Yoruba land and to let them know that also we are blowing grammar, but we are actually the son of the soil. Our language is very, very important. Ekale nílẹ̀ Yorùbá, ẹkú dédé wòyí, ẹkú bójú ọjọ́ ṣe rí, ìgbà ire ìgbàyọ̀ ìgbà láfíà náà ló bọ́ sí fún wa nílé agodo yìí. Kò ní burú kò sì ní bàjẹ́ fẹ́ni kọ̀ọ̀kan gbọ́ tí ń wo ètò yìí, ojú òní tìyín bàjẹ́ òní bá yín. Ẹ káàbọ̀ sórí agbami ètò bàbá ètò lẹ́ ń gbọ́ yìí. A wà pẹ̀lú ọ̀kan lára àwọn ògbóǹtarìgì agbóhùnsáfẹ́fẹ́ tó sì jẹ́ ọ̀gá nílé iṣẹ́ ìròyìn níbi tán ti ń gbéròyìn síta nílé iṣẹ́ Pensioner FM nílùú Ìbàdàn. Orúkọ mi ò yípadà, orúkọ tèmi náà ni Olúdáre Olúsanmọ Olùṣọ́ àgùntàn Samuel Olúṣẹ́gun Olúsan. Ẹ káalẹ́ o, ìlú Ìbàdàn náà ti bí lọ́mọ Ìbàdàn lé Olúyọ̀lé, ìlú Ìbíkúnlé, alágbàlá ológòdo kẹ̀ríkẹ̀rí lójú ogun. Wọ́n lé bọ̀ lẹ́yìn Jagunlabi ònlára àwájú Ìbàdàn mọ́jà tó fi kára àwájú lẹ́rú. And that is who you are, that is what we are, that is how we promote our whole language. We cannot be blowing grammars when we have our own language. A time is coming in Africa that African is going to embrace one of the language in Africa that will be communicating in our own local African language. Coming, I mean, enough of promoting this funny language from somewhere. It's time for us to promote African language. And thank you, everyone. I really appreciate every one of you that you are watching this program. Mr. Pius, we are not going far. We just have a lot of things to touch before we go into the business of the day. Let me quickly take you to the business of the day. Let's look at the media. Most especially in times such as this, media have, come to another era whereby the technology have took over and the media is a kind of profession that is very, very widespread by even people that is not professional. Everybody is now a broadcaster, most especially on the social media. What is your view regarding the situation and what media is all about in these days?
Well, you can't, just like you rightly said, you can't take away the fact that the media is practically the most powerful tool in changing any society. You can't take that away. And that is why if you look at the history of the media and what the media has done in the past, you will realize that the media in some cases is hated and in some cases is loved, depending on what the media is to you. Okay, so the media is a very strong tool for development, as you and I have seen over the years. Like we are taught in in some of the trainings that concerning the media that we have been through. One of the roles of the media is, of course, to set agenda for the people, because as a trained media person, you see things differently from the way they do. It is up to you now to bring up the issues and mirror them against the backdrop of the happenings in the society and put them out there for the people to see, and of course form the opinion of the people based on the kind of information that you feed them with. And so far, it is the media that determines what the people think about certain kinds of situations. It is the media that gives perception to the generality of the people on certain issues, be it politics, be it the economy, be it culture, just like you and I are doing now. Whichever way you want to look at it, the media remains a veritable tool for the development of the society. And when I mean the society, the nation where the media operates in, the environment where the media operates in. And so the next question you may want to ask yourself, how free is the media within the context of a particular environment? Now, if you were to ask that question, depending on the kind of media regulations like that you have in those countries. Our environment in Nigeria is a peculiar one because of where we are coming from. If you remember, Nigeria had been largely ruled by the military. And so the kind of media environment that had, prevailed over the years had been that of what you can call the authoritarian media environment, where there are conscious efforts, conscious attempts to silence the media, what you and I know as gagging of the media. And so even when Nigeria transited from the military to democracy, it appears that successive governments still wore that toga of military. And so the kinds of decrees made during the military that tended towards silencing the media now come in very subtle and disguised forms as regulatory agencies, or better still, regulatory codes. So the various codes that we have in the country today, across the different parts of the world. Talking about Nigeria now, we have what we call the NBC code, which is like the Bible of every broadcaster. You go on air, there are some things you cannot say, otherwise you will be seen to be criticizing the government. There are some things you cannot portray in the media here in the Nigerian space, otherwise you will be seen as going against the broadcast code. And the question you ask is, who makes the broadcast code? Is it a group of professionals in the industry who come to sit down and determine what constitutes the codes or ethics of the profession? Or is it the agencies of government that determine what the broadcast codes should be? And if the latter is the case, in a way, it means that what we ordinarily should call freedom of information, which is entrenched in section 22 and 19 and 39 of the 1999 Constitution, is not there. Because section 22 of the 1999 Constitution confers what you call freedom of speech. And then section 39 of the same constitution gives the right to establish media outfit, just like we have around the country. But it is one thing to establish media outfit. It is another thing to really practice media the way it is done in advanced democracies like the United States of America. I don't know how it is done there in South Africa where you are, but I do watch other international media platforms like the CNN, the BBC, and the rest of them. You don't get to see gagging. You don't get to see this subtle way of trying to silence the media like we have it here. It has even gone beyond the conventional media now. Attempts are being made to even monitor the social media space here in Nigeria. I'm sure where you are now, you quite know that in the last couple of months, Twitter has not been operating in this country. And if we are to be given the reason for which Twitter has not been operating in Nigeria, is laughable in the sense that as far as the social media is concerned, there is nothing like president. There is nothing like vice president. There's nothing like governor. Everybody is treated on the basis of his individuality. It is either you are Pius or you are Buhari or you are this or you are that. But where a president puts up a post on Twitter and then the Twitter operators find the post offensive and took it down, and they said that that operator has gone against the right of the president now, not Buhari as a person. Then, and so lashed on that alone to ban Twitter under the guise of Twitter undermining national security in Nigeria. Then it simply tells you that the media space in Nigeria has not been friendly. One would think that after the military, now that we are in a democracy, it will be better. But lo and behold, it's not better.
Sorry, Mr. Pius. Let me quickly pick in there so that we can make it a kind of interactive section, because it's important we look at these issues, because it's not only in Nigeria. It affects many countries in Africa. I remember during the election in Zambia, the social media was mute. Also in Uganda, there was the social media was. So this is happening, and it's like the freedom of speech and this freedom of expression is going to silence in Africa, because most of the time we see that most of the African leaders seem to see the media as the enemy of their government, or they see the media as the people that's trying to sabotage or take over from them. And we keep on worrying about the problem facing the journalism and journalists and facing the media space in Africa. Let's take it easy, because you mentioned the issue of the Twitter in Nigeria, which is one of the things that is so worrisome in a well-civilized country and democratic country. Personally, you are head of newscaster at Pensioner FM. Tell us a bit about how did the news generated and what kind of news goes out.
Well, I rejected. I wanted to say that irrespective of what appears to be gagging, Nigerian journalists are not giving up, even though largely we have our own challenges too, we have our own shortcomings, no doubt. But largely, Nigerian journalists, we are not giving up. We still do our job. We still do our reportage. We still gather our stories. But the challenge we have is the issue of confidentiality or hoarding of information, if I would put it that way. You go to most government quarters, you may not be able to have access to the kind of information that you need. Despite the Freedom of Information Acts okay, which presupposes that as a journalist, you could walk to any public establishment and ask or seek to get vital information about that public establishment. That's in theory, but in practice, more often than not, it doesn't happen. What you will get basically from government quarters is a structured statement from government quarters, being dished out to journalists on the position of government on certain issues. So that makes investigative journalism a bit difficult here in Nigeria. In fact, some government officials, depending on whom you are dealing with, actually see themselves as lords of the manor. They decide when to talk to you and when not to talk to you, which in advanced climes shouldn't be, because talking to you is a responsibility that they owe the people and they see it as such. And so when a journalist approaches them at any point in time, they know that they have no right of refusal. They oblige you, they talk to you, and they give you the information you need. But the case is the reverse here. Much as we understand, one of the social responsibilities of a journalist is to protect national security. And so if you are trained, there are certain kind of information that even when you have them with you, you have to put national security first. And so you know how to handle your reports and your stories. Despite that, that's at the back of our minds. It's very challenging getting the kind of information that we ought to get here as journalists. But we still try our best. We still try and grind out stories as much as we can. And that takes me to the issue of garbage in, garbage out journalism that we have these days, all thanks to
Thank you,
social media.
thank you, Mr. Pius. Sorry to cut you short. We're still gonna continue with the conversation. I have Otumba Babatunde Tiamiyu online, the GM, General Manager of the Pensioner FM, Agbarigo Onireke Ibadan. Is with me live on the African Portal on the phone call. Otuba, welcome to the African Portal. We are having a beautiful conversation with Mr. Pius Nsabe on the African Portal right now. How are you today, sir?
Good evening, Mr. Dari Olusan. And thank you for having my brother, my colleague, and my head of news, Pensioners FM 106.7 Agbarigo Nireke Ibadan, Nigeria, West Africa, on your program this evening. How are you doing? I'm happy to be part of this conversation.
We're doing very well, and I'm so delighted and I'm so happy as well to have you on board as a GM. I know there is a lot in your hands to do, but you give us this time to connect with us to be part of the conversation. I really, really appreciate it. Otuba Babatunde Tiamiyu, as a media practitioner and somebody that is very, 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 very good when it comes to media. So let's quickly look at the issue that we are discussing with Mr. Pius. What is your view regarding the media space, most especially in Africa, and the problem facing the journalists in Africa?
Well, let me start by saying, first and foremost, that the man you are having on your program today is he knows his left different from right when it comes to journalism and news gathering, even issues concerning current affairs in Nigeria and even globally. You need to listen to him on some of his programs, like Voice of Liberation every Saturday, 10 to 12 on the stations there. Also, we have one that has to do with the elders every Friday, 12 to 1. That is the gray air. And of course, Searchlight every Thursday. You need to listen to all these programs, and you appreciate Mr. Pius Nsabe as a seasoned journalist. Now to your question, you see, in Africa today, especially in Nigeria, like you rightly observed a while ago, that governments in Nigeria, in Africa, and some parts of the world are now looking down at journalists as their enemies instead of making them their friends. And journalists, as we all know, are regarded as the fourth estate of the realm. When you talk about the legislature, the executive, and the judiciary, the fourth non-fully recognized arm of government is the journalist. An American government once said that it would prefer to have journalists rather than to have government. That it would prefer if there's no government but there's journalists. To tell you the importance of journalists to people who actually know the role of journalists in the society. But today, because of some issues, because of certain incompetencies, because of selfish interest on the part of so many leaders across the world, most especially in Africa and in Nigeria in particular, they are looking down at journalists as their enemies, which does not supposed to be so. So that is my take.
Okay.
The media is not friendly.
It's not friendly.
Many journalists in Africa, in Nigeria most especially.
I intentionally opened that conversation to make sure that I make it a kind of discussion that we can actually look into. We are not trying to bring up the problem, rather we are trying to bring up the solution. And the way this program is going tonight is going to be a beautiful conversation at the end of the day. Mr. Pius Nsabe, I've read a lot about you. I've done some back check about you. You are one of the seasoned professional that I respect so much in the media space. And I've listened to some of your program, which is well presented and beautiful. But sir, let's quickly look at this. Friendly, what is the solution? What do we need to do to make sure that there is a rapport or a friendly relationship between the government and the journalist, most especially in Africa?
Well, it's very simple. It's not
to Mr. Pius, sir. I'm throwing it to Mr. Pius. Sorry, Otuba.
Okay.
It's not a big deal. The government at all levels must see journalists as partners in progress rather than their enemies. They, just like Dr. Tiamiu said, journalists are considered the fourth estate of the realm, meaning that one way or the other, they are part of the government. No journalist in its right senses. Of course, you can't rule out deviance in every profession. You can't rule it out. But no professional journalist will do his job with a view to pulling down any government. And so government and government officials must understand that the same way they go about prosecuting their jobs, so also is the journalist. And that the journalist has a responsibility first to the people before any other government. And so if they have that at the back of their mind, they will know that the journalist is only playing a role to uplift the society. The question you ask yourself is, why is it that when these people seek political offices, it is the same journalists that they ride on to get to where they get to? And then when they eventually get there, depending on the kind of government, whether it is the listening type or it is not the listening type, now wants to turn its back against the same journalist that you used to achieve your end. Going back to the issue of Twitter, for example, it was the same Twitter that this present government used largely as a tool for propaganda which is allowed in politics to get to where it is today. So if we are tolerable, let me use that word, we are tolerable to journalists, we do what is right as a government, you don't have anything to hide as a government, then you have no reason to be afraid of the journalists. They are there to serve as checks and balances, the same way you have the legislature and even the judiciary. So if you have nothing to hide as a government, you have no reason to be scared. That is it. One thing we have enjoyed, I would say that I have enjoyed as a journalist, is the goodwill of the people who, like you said earlier on, see us as the voice of the voiceless. That is what has kept us going. So when we look back, despite the hostile environment from the government quarters, when we look back to the way the people appreciate what we do, we have cause to want to march forward. So the government, bottom line, should see us as partners in progress rather than arch enemies.
Mr. Pius, I really appreciate that, and I'm going to throw this open to you and not to Otumba, because I want to see your own experience. Have you been in any situation whereby you've been probably accused or been molested by any government official, probably through a news you put out or through a program? Have you been in that shoe before, Mr. Pius?
Well, these things happen. They happen to us every day. They happen every day, in different circumstances. At the level that we operated in the past, when we do certain stories like this, there are two possibilities. It is either government officials move ahead of those stories through our superiors and perhaps through the proprietorship of that media outfit to kill that story, or on the other hand, to sanction you, ask that you be sanctioned for editing certain kinds of story, for allowing certain kind of story to go on air as the editor. It has happened. I've had such experiences, even though here in Pensioners FM, perhaps we're a bit lucky, or maybe because we try as much as possible to raise our standard, we've not really experienced that. But in the past, in other places that I've worked, we've experienced that. But one practical example, which I would say I've had to go through, not really molested per se, but gagged in a way, was at an event in Lagos. I was a reporter then for Radio Nigeria, and there was an event involving top officials, which I'm not going to mention now, two factions. So we were invited for a press conference, or we were invited rather to be part of that event. Unknown to us journalists that the journalists were not supposed to be part of that event. But it was an undercover that actually invited us to that event, and we didn't know. It was a factional member of that group that brought us in there as undercovers. But we didn't even know that we were being used as undercover journalists. But it was when some men who came late to the program strolled in with their camera, the way those of us working in radio strolled in. They thought we were probably part of those two groups, those two political groups. But it was when they discovered that the journalists were around that immediately they closed all the doors. And that entire area was surrounded by mobile policemen. And they had to fish us out and took us out and handed us over to the mobile policemen. But it was a tug of war. Some of us stood our grounds actually, because they wanted to seize our phones. They wanted us to delete whatever we had recorded in our phones. But when we stood our ground and made them understand that they were infringing on our privacies as law-abiding citizens who were only doing their job just like they were doing theirs, we spoke some sense into them. And at the end of the day, they also saw reasons. So rather than use force, they turned it to an appeal that given the sensitivity of the story, that it was bound to compromise national security if we used it the way it came, that we should please not use such story. And at the end of the day, I think common sense prevailed. And like I said earlier, the need for national security, which is a social responsibility of every journalist, prevailed. And indeed, we held back. Now, even without their asking, we knew that this story, if we were to use them in our various platforms, they were going to cause serious security problems. So these are the kind of issues you have here and there, and so on and so forth.
Thank you, Mr. Paul. Also, Babatunde Tiabi, you are still there. Can you please put down the radio behind you so that we can hear you very well? Are you still there, sir?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Otumba. Thank you so much. I just don't want to put you on speaker when there is a noise at the back. Otumba, let's look at the bribery in the media space, because that is happening a lot. A lot of media, because we are talking about the government scenes, but let's talk about the media himself. In the media space, there are a lot of people that their job is just to get the bribe from the government officials and put some information out. What damage do you think that is doing to the media space?
Before I even answer that question, let me quickly build on what Pius just said right now, that the relationship between media and government has a profound impact on information to which the public has access. If you look at history, governments have always relied on the media to communicate with citizens and stakeholders around the world, towards ensuring that they receive the information that will shape their day-to-day decisions and activities, from what to buy, how to live, where to live, which institution to attend, to what issue at any particular point in time. This is purely the job of the media, especially the journalists. But now it's like those people at the ends of affair are looking at the journalists or the media as threats to whatever they have at the back of their mind. Now, to your question about bribery, all sort of infractions on the part of journalists themselves. You see, you cannot build something or nothing. Let me tell you, we have some media houses owing their employees as much as 6 to 7 months' salary. How do you want them to survive? There was a case in time, a popular media house was owing 6 months' salary of his staff, especially the journalists. And the owner called a meeting and told them that even my ID card alone, the ID card of my organization alone is like a meal ticket. You are saying that we have not paid you for 6 months, yet you are wearing good clothes, some of you are riding good cars. So what does that supposed to mean? For crying out loud, I'm working for you. At the end of the month, I should be entitled to my payment. And you are now telling me so and so. So do you want me to be working in penury? Do you want me to be living and you expect to work for you in hunger? So these things also comes back to media owners too. They are depriving their workers their entitlement. Not so with the owners of Pensioners FM. I've never seen, for the past 2 years now, I've never seen a situation where they owe us up into another month. But not so with so many other media houses that we have around. So the media owners too must take adequate care of the welfare of their staff. That is number one. Number two, for any journalist that prioritize brown envelope or white envelope or bank alert, as the case may be, you are only ruining your future, because at the point in time, those people who are giving you those pennies and cobbles will not give you any regard again as a professional. So they at any point in time, they can treat you the way they like. And that's why you see the next, some journalists who have suffered one thing or the other from those in power. Go and carry out your research. They've benefited some awesome benefits from those people. And when the payback time comes, definitely they will smell rat. So it's better to stand on your integrity, especially as a journalist. Let people know who you are. That is not, you are in journalism not because of the immediate gain, but to carry out your duty and serve the society where you are. That is supposed to be the primary motive for any professional journalist. But the situation in the country, also the economic situation in the country, will push people to try to cut corners, which is not ideal and it's not good for the profession.
Wow, wow. Otumba, I really appreciate that, and I want to thank you for you coming in to be part of this conversation. Actually, the most focus is on Mr. Pius. I just bring you in also to just be part of it. So Mr. Pius is actually the main guest. So as one of us, as one of the owner of the African Portal, I just decide also to also make sure that I let the voice of my boss also been in this broadcast. So thank you, Otuba. Thank you so much, Otuba, for coming. I really appreciate it. Keep on the good job that you are doing. We appreciate
it. You even get more than what you are asking for from him. I can assure you of that.
I know that. I feel that already. I feel that, it's not easy for somebody to convert it from the science student to the art student. It's not easy. So now is originality. He left he left what he learned. Now he's working on the originality. So that kind of people, they have what it takes to be in the space where they are. And also, I want to thank you for what you are doing. Keep on the great job.
Let me put it this way before I go. He left what he learned and went into what he has passion for. That is that's the expression.
Exactly. And the passion is more greater than the learning. So, when you have a passion for something, when the passion is pushing you, you can go to any length to make sure that you get job done. And I want to appreciate this.
You know what? Your education is not an end in itself. But the way you can apply whatever you have learned in wherever or whatever circumstance you find yourself, that is what they call education. Education is a tool, but application of it is what matters most to anyone. That's a lesson for anybody that is acquiring education. What you are learning is not an end in itself, but the application of the knowledge that you learn.
Actually, application is the proof of learning. So I really appreciate you, Otuba, for that light you share on this conversation. I really appreciate it. Keep it up. This is the general manager of Pensioner FM, first in Africa, the labor radio, and one of the first in the world. Thank you very much. I really appreciate your conversation here. God bless you, Otuba. We talk some more.
God
bless you.
I'm saying hi to my brother.
Definitely is listening as well. Thank you very much. All right, Mr. Pius, thank you very much for the pleasure of your time. We're still in the business of the day. We're just trying to make sure that we lay a solid foundation. Mr. Pius, let's look at the issue of the technology in the media space. Can you say that, because the way it's going now, you can see a lot of places you go to, you see the radio station here, radio station there. There are so many radio stations. What damage do you think this is going to do to media space?
Well, if you talk about, I used the word proliferation of radio stations the other day. Somebody said that's rather disparaging, but we should rather use maybe increasing number of radio stations, whatever that means. But for me, ordinarily, the increase in the number of radio stations per space would have been an advantage, with respect to information dissemination, education, and entertainment, which are the three key focuses of broadcasting. But at the end of the day, I think that the increasing number of radio stations today is rather defeating the purpose for which a radio station should be established. And why did I say that? Now, what seems to be happening within the media space. Take Ibadan, for example. They say Ibadan is one of the largest cities in West Africa. Fine. But no matter how large Ibadan is, imagine having at least 30 radio stations within this space called Ibadan. How many trained professionals, broadcast professionals, I mean, do you have within the space of Ibadan to cater for the personnel need of each of these radio stations? How many? Not so many. And that is why, at the end of the day, some of these radio stations resort to, I don't want to use the word never-do-wells. I don't want to use the word charlatans now, or quacks. But they resort at times to greenhorns, the inexperienced, to drive the better parts. This gives them a way on air. Because some of these people have never gone through any formal training, be it in news writing, be it in news delivery, be it in program production, talk less of program presentation. They've not understudied professionals, the kind of privilege that some of us had in places like Radio Nigeria, where we cut our teeth in broadcasting. Some don't even have professional trainings, the type that we have at the National Broadcast Academy, which I told you about earlier on. So they just jump into the studio. Some of them will be entering the studio for the first day and for the first time, and they have become OAPs. So these are some of the challenges you have with the proliferation of radio stations within a small space like a city of Ibadan. And then the issue of commercialization too is something we can't even start talking about, because the proprietors of radio stations now, which by the way are so many, they are much more concerned about the competition of making money. And so if it means lowering your standard to the barest minimum just to make money, just to outsmart your sister station or your rival station in this context, then we do that. So professional ethics or no professional ethics to them means absolutely nothing. What matters is the revenue drive. And so whether you give garbage on air, it doesn't really matter. What matters is that the money is coming in. But if you are a professional and you listen like a professional, you will know that a lot is wrong. And for me, largely, it is because we have too many radio stations around with very few personnel to actually do the professional job of broadcasting. And so that's one of the downsides for me. There are too many of them, you know, of the downside. Another one is that some of these radio stations are ill-equipped. I think the Pensioners FM general manager, when he came on air, he said it all. It is one thing to have a radio station, and it's an entirely different ball game to be able to run the radio station effectively. Running a radio station is not tea party. It's a very, very serious and capital-intensive business, particularly in a climate like Nigeria, where you have to run on diesel for the better part of the day, where you have to fix this and fix that. Even this internet with which I am talking to you now, it's very expensive. And it is the internet facility of my office that I'm using to talk to you. So you can't run these days without internet. At times we pay running into millions. But some of these people, they just open radio stations just because perhaps they have someone who knows someone who knows someone who knows someone in government. And so they have the opportunity of getting a license. And when they eventually open the radio station, they make nonsense out of it. No proper foundation, no effective staffing. I mean, nothing to show for it that you are a radio station. In fact, I know of a radio station in this same Ibadan that when you tune in the morning, it is the same voice you hear in the morning, the same voice you hear in the afternoon, same voices you hear in their major programs in the evening, be it English or Yoruba. No diversity of voices, no variety. All these things make for monotony, and they are not good for radio programming. And it's as a result of the proliferation of radio stations. Because if you have fewer radio stations with more qualified personnel working on this radio station, you are bound to get better results than what we get today. Yes, on the other hand, we could say that, okay, the coming on board of so many radio stations has also helped a lot of young people, particularly those who studied mass communication, to get jobs, at least not to be idle. But in giving out employment, do you sacrifice professionalism on the altar of job availability? For me, the answer is no. If we could have up to 100 radio stations in Ibadan and we have the personnel to mount them and we have the professionalism, the standard maintained, I wouldn't have a problem with that. It would be a plus.
Mr. Pius, I really, really appreciate your view on that. But let me quickly take you to your personal programs now, because you have a lot of programs you are running and doing so well.
Not a lot, 3. I handle 2 programs.
It's not, you are not handling one. Anything more than one is not long. It's no longer. It's a lot. It's a lot, because what I mean by a lot is the kind of weight it has in the space. So let's look at them. What impacts are this program doing in the community?
Well, luckily for me, I handle current affairs programs, and as the name implies, current affairs means that you have to be up to date, and your program has to touch on issues of the moment, not issues of yesterday. That's why they are called current affairs program. Just like the Dr. Tiamiu said, I handle one is called the Searchlight on Thursdays. It's a 45 minutes program from 1:15 to 2 p.m. on Thursdays. It's a strictly political program. Issues happening. And then the one I have on Saturdays, a 2-hour program. It's from 10 a.m. to 12 noon. It's more like a magazine program, even though it's not fully magazine, because it touches on a number of items there, like my intro, where I look at a particular issue of the moment, be it a social, political, or economic issue, and then I touchlight it. It's more like an opinionated, intro, and then I do a bit of a rundown of, labor stories for the week, a kind of summary of labor stories for the week. And then we touch light on burning developmental or community issues affecting the people directly, social issues, like the issues of bad roads, the issues of bad bridges, the issue of environmental pollution, issues touching the people, the issues of rise in cost of items in the market. Enter the interview session where we could talk either politics or labor, any issue at all that is of immediate importance. And the feedback, to the glory of God, that we are getting indicate that these programs are actually very far-reaching. I forgot one, which is the gray hair. That's about the elderly. That one is on Fridays, 12 to 1 p.m. Basically, we look at the personalities of these elderly, most of whom are retirees. They come in with their wealth of experience into the program. They share it with members of the public with a view to imparting on our younger generation. And the feedback we get actually show that all these programs are making impact one way or the other. Take gray hair, for example. A lot of people I've met have told me that what Mr. A or Mrs. B said on the program actually helped to change his or her, story, because from their own stories, they are able to leverage on the stories of my guests and draw out a path for themselves for the future. That's the feedback I get from the younger people. And even among the elderly themselves, particularly even those we feature on the program, they see it as a form of exposure, which some of them never dreamed or never dreamt to ever have had in their lifetime and all that. For the current affairs program, let me give you a very common example of what happened recently. That's the fact that we had some bad road spots within Ibadan here, which via that program we touchlighted on these bad spots on the road. In fact, one of them, my car fell into it and even got damaged. I had to take the car to the mechanic to spend very big amount of money. And then the Saturday after, I made that issue an issue. I made it an issue on the program, and I talked vocally about it. And my brother, as I speak with you, those bad spots have been filled. They have been taken care of. So for me, I think that is impact. And then from time to time, people from different communities will either phone us or send us text messages to tell us that yesterday you talked about the other community we heard. Please, can you say something about our own community today pertaining to this issue that is bothering us? And then when we come on our program, we do that. So it simply tells you that people are following what we do and they understand the power of the microphone that we sit behind every time we have the opportunity to talk on air. And they are keying into that for the development of the immediate society. So that is the extent in which I would say that the programs have been making impact on the people.
Wow. Wow. Mr. Pius, we really appreciate it. Let's quickly take you to the last aspect of this program, where we'll be putting you on the spotlight and we'll be putting you on the hot seat, where we'll be throwing some hard questions to you about life, about your personal life, about your profession, about things that is happening around us as you are focusing on current affairs. This is a hard aspect of this conversation. So let's quickly look at the issue that you've mentioned that is happening around you where you are in Ibadan. And let's talk about the challenges that is facing people, most especially the bad road and the some issues that's about price of the food in the market and stuff like that. What do you think that people listening to your program, after them talking about it, do you always go back to the government to tell them about what you discuss, or you send a clip to them for them to listen to?
Thank you very much for that wonderful question. Of course, a sense of balance in broadcasting demands that it is a duty for you as a broadcaster to hear from all the sides. The moment you decide to hear from only one side and you don't get to balance it up, of course, that's where the issue of bias comes in. So to that extent, we try our best to reach out to the concerned government officials. In some cases, we get a response from them, either by way of bringing them on our program to come and feature as guests and explain their roles in some of these social issues that we touch light. It's as a result of this that we've had commissioners on our program, we've had past ministers, we've had legislators, both from the state and even the National Assembly, past and current, to explain out some of these things to them. But in some cases too, we do meet brick walls, because some of them, like I said before, as if you were reading my mind, they don't see you as you matter, as though you matter, or don't let me say they don't see you as though you matter, because they understand the power of a journalist. They understand the power of the microphone that we have. But perhaps they don't understand that it is a responsibility they owe the people to talk to them, to explain certain government policies to them. They don't see it that way. And so when you invite some of these so-called big men in government, they tend to put some stumbling blocks, that would prevent you from getting to meet them. So some of them won't show up. And the way they will even treat it, with this I don't care attitude, we have such. But we also have those who, whether you call them at midnight to explain, even if it is via a text message, a particular report that you got during the day, they will oblige you. So we have them. And all these kind of people, we have devised ways of, handling them. Because one way of promoting false story, one way of promoting speculations is not telling your own side of the story. And so when we try to reach out to them, they don't seem to respond. We roll out our stories and add to our stories that effort to reach this government official failed as he or she was not responding. So we have so many ways of going about it, but to hit the nail on the head, we try as much as possible to balance our reportage, which is a key, aspect of broadcasting.
Mr. Pius, I'll be making it a bit snappy so that we can cover some of the things that we have on this conversation. If you are to leave what you are doing now, you are in the media space, to go for something else. If you are to, maybe you have opportunity, somebody just call you, hey, Mr. Pius, no, media is not giving money. Here is $1 million. Forget about the media. Come and do something. What would that be if you have opportunity to leave what you are doing now and go to another field or start something new?
You want me to be very frank with you? It can only be the media. Because by my gifting, I just realized that that's the only thing I know how to do. The only other thing I would have loved to do, or I would love to do, is teaching. Luckily for me, I do it as a media person, because the moment you go on air and sit behind the microphone, you're already teaching. So it's like 2 in 1 for me. Because the only other thing I would love to do if I'm not in the media is to teach, either at the tertiary level or at any level I have the opportunity to do. But I see the media as a platform for me to teach. So that answers the question. It is media, media, and media.
Wow. Kumo Africa is a representative and one of the African Porter team in Johannesburg. Kumo Africa is talking about some of the important issue, which is what will be your advice to the young journalists in Nigeria? I don't want to use Nigeria as a whole. In Africa, what is your advice to journalists in Africa? The first question you already answered.
Yes, I answered. You are in South Africa. In the days that Mandela stood up for his country and said South Africa must be liberated, did he find it easy? He did not.
No.
But he knew a cause he was fighting for, and he fought it steadfast until we young Africans begin to make up our minds that irrespective of the environment where we operate, we are there for a reason, and to bring about that much desired change, we are not going to go anywhere. And so my advice to every young African who wants to go into journalism, number one, you have to be very bold. You have to know what you want, and you have to educate yourself, because there is so much power in knowledge. If you are not knowledgeable, you can't be powerful. That is why some of these people in government, they fear real journalists. Mark my word, real journalists. So you don't go into a profession because you are looking for money. You will fail ab initio. there has to be something driving you. I was driven into journalism for a number of reasons, maybe few. Number one, I am somebody who likes to be heard for the right reasons. And I knew that sitting in the lab with my lab coat and doing my sciences and all that, I would not be heard. That was going to serve as a veritable, legitimate platform for me to share my ideas and ideals. That's one. Two, and maybe the last, I know that one day I am going to go into mainstream politics. I know it's in me. And I know that the media is also a veritable tool for exposure. You need the media. With today I can enter anywhere, even Aso Rock. The worst that they can say is that the president did not invite you. But I can enter. Once I show them my ID card, I can enter anywhere. So you need that exposure. I've had to interact with people that in my life I never would have dreamt I would ever come close to. That's what journalism has done for me. And it's building my own capacity too as a potential leader for the country. So these are the reasons, not the money.
So in short, that actually brings me to the previous question that I asked you, because I'm following you carefully. So that is, if you say media, that means on the other side of your mind, you still have interest to go into politics. Is that what you're saying?
Definitely.
So if you have to leave what you are doing now, the next will be politics.
Definitely. It's a platform that I'm using to build myself as a young man, to contribute my own quota to the society. That's why a lot of people, I'm a little above 40. Okay? I'm a little above 40. A little. I'm just in my early 40s. But a lot of people have said that I'm old enough to go into politics. And I said, no. I don't want to go into politics as a hungry man. I don't want to go into politics as a neophyte in my career. I'm still a young man in my career. I need to build my career to a certain appreciable extent for me to know that even if I leave what somebody would say, you have a second address that you can always fall back on. Politics shouldn't be a career, a money-making career. It shouldn't be. You don't go into politics with a view to becoming a millionaire overnight. You go into politics with a view to making sacrifices. If it means dipping your hands in your pocket to make your society better.
You go to politics to serve people, not to make from people.
Yes, you go into politics to make sacrifices. And I'm saying this from the depth of my heart. A lot of people, when you say it as a young man, some people will say, now so Nigerian politicians they talk. But I know myself.
That is why I asked you that question, that if somebody give you $1 million now, that drop what you are doing in media, come into politics, come and join politics, are you going to collect the money?
I'm not yet ripe for politics. That's the point I'm trying to make.
Yeah, but what I want to bring out is that it's not about age when you're talking about the money. If somebody now offer you $1 million in dollars and tell you that drop the media now and come to politics, here is money, are you going to drop the media and collect the money and start the politics?
And when the $1 million box finishes, what becomes of me? What becomes of me? And that's one of the problems with some of our young people today. They go into politics without having any career path. We have a preponderance of them, so many of them, they go into politics without a clear-cut career for themselves. That is not the way politics is played. Go elsewhere. When you see people in politics, they always will have a second address. They would have done a lot, before they begin to think of going into politics. Not that you just come out of high school, your next line of thought is to go into mainstream politics. For me, it's wrong. So if you want to bring me $1 million in politics, if that amounts to politics, is perhaps to be a media assistant or a media advisor to somebody. which for me is still within the media space. Even though that role is even being abused in Nigeria today, because some media advisors don't even know that as media advisors or media assistants, they are not politicians, or at least not yet. They are still media personnel. That sense of objectivity and balance must still always be there. You are the one advising your principal, who is a politician, who does not understand balancing and objectivity. But today, some of our media people go into politics go into taking up such duties as politicians. That's why you will see a personal assistant or a media assistant will be debunking or will be trying to carpet a political party when it makes a statement about the political party of his principal, not on his principal himself, but on the political party of his principal. It shouldn't be. You are not a politician. So let the party, that's why the party has its own various offices, its own various organs. The party has a publicity secretary, it has a secretary, it has so many other people who can speak on behalf of the party. Your own is to speak for your principal, anything that has to do with him or her. But all these things are being abused just because people take a lot of money and they forget the values and ethics of their profession. And that is exactly what the likes of me are saying, that we cannot continue that way and it would not be right to do things that way.
Mr. Pius, I really appreciate your view, and I want to thank you for coming out to be part of this broadcast tonight. It's a lovely, beautiful conversation with you, and I believe if I call on you again, you will be happy to be on the African Portal Radio.
Definitely, Larry. Dari, I count it quite an honor you having me on this portal today. And once again, I must commend you for what you are doing. I'm extremely, as an African and as a Nigerian, proud of what you are doing. I can only wish you well. I also want to use the medium again to thank my general manager, Dr. Babatunde Tiamiyu, for this platform because he facilitated it. And I'm extremely grateful for it. Thank you. Whenever you need me, call me. I'm always there.
Mr. Pius, before I let you out of my way, what it is that is happening in the world that you want it to stop now, and what it is that is happening in the world that you want it to continue?
My brother, what I want to stop in the world today is the senseless killings, the terrorism in our world. Our world knows no peace anymore, and it's really disturbing. From Asia to America to Australia to Africa, the story is the same. Terrorism, the killings, they are not, we don't need them. We need a world where we can go to anywhere and sleep with our eyes closed like we used to have in the past. Time was in this country, even myself as a student back in the days, we'll be traveling home, our vehicle will spoil on the road in a bushy area. We will sleep there till morning and then we continue our journey. You can't try that today in Nigeria or anywhere in the world. The story is horrible. So we want to take away, I don't want to see the killings and the terrorism in the world. What I want to see is peace. Just like you have the United Nations General Assembly going on now, where leaders gather to discuss the development of the world, how the globe, will be developed by way of stemming insecurity, stemming the COVID-19 pandemic, which is another thing that I very much want to go, because COVID-19 has practically changed our lives. We can't even live our normal lives again with the advent of COVID-19, which, by the way, has refused to go. So these are the kind of things I don't want to see again in our world. We need peace, and we need peace.
Thank you very much for that. I really, really appreciate it. What is the greatest lesson you've learned so far as a media person and the life I've taught you?
Well, as a media person, the greatest lesson I have learned is not to compromise your integrity and your professionalism for a plate of porridge. There is a tendency to do that. There is a tendency to get money and kill the story that would have changed the lives of so many people for good. there is a tendency to collect money and kill a story that would have exposed a particular criminal in government that is making life miserable for the people whom you speak for. So one of the greatest lessons I have learned is to be objective in my career and to remain objective. At times you may not be popular. A lot of people may not like you. A lot of the politicians may not, because you don't patronize them. They may not like you. To them, you are nothing. But keep your head up, keep it straight, and keep going. At the end of the day, posterity will judge you well. My greatest lesson in life is that irrespective of who you are, humility is a virtue you should never trade for anything. And then peace. Always be a peace-loving person. It pays. Humility, integrity, and peace-loving. With these three, you will go places.
Wow, wow, wow. Let me take you back to where we started this program, which is very, very emotional and which is very, very important. What greatest lesson do you learn from your mom? May her soul rest in peace.
Yeah.
What can you tell us that this is the lesson that I learned from my mother?
It's very simple. My mom was a very bold woman. Very bold woman. My mom was not educated, but she could do things that even the educated, she could enter places that even the educated could not enter. My mom, I remember, I don't know if we still have a little time, when we were in the army barracks, because my dad is a retired soldier, I was born in the barracks. There were some big wigs in the army who would want to molest the, low-ranking soldiers just because they are high up there. There was a day a particular officer put my dad in their cell there in the army. They call it guard room. And when my mom heard of it, she got to the quarter guard, got to the place that no woman dares go, and she went straight into the man's office and grabbed him by his uniform and told her, "You must release my husband." That was a big issue in the army. For your wife to do that, it would have even aggravated the problem. But because of her approach, the man had no choice than to let go of my dad. So boldness is one thing I learned from my mom. But inside that boldness, there still has to be some level of simplicity. That is it. And then passion to set a goal and achieve it. That was my mom for you. If she said this is what she wanted, well, the secondary school I wanted to attend, which was one of the best in my state, Cross River, the first term I couldn't make it for some reasons. The second term they had closed admission. They would not give admission. And I was going to lose that academic year. But my mom went in straight to the principal's office. He was a reverend father because it was a missionary come public school. And he told the priest that this is the school my son would like to attend. And even though you people have closed admission, you will give him admission. I don't know how you are going to do that. The man was just looking at her. And at the end of the day, they gave me admission in that school.
Wow. Wow.
That is a very lovely.
That is a very lovely lesson. To be determined and know what you want in life and go for it. To everyone listening to us on this program, I really appreciate your time. You are part of this conversation, and I want to thank every one of you for joining us. I really, really appreciate it. If you don't learn anything on this program this hour, learn that you need to be bold and you need to know what you want in life. Some people don't know what they want in life. That is why people start throwing them here and there. Know what you want and get what you want. Don't cut corners, because that is not going to take you anywhere. The only thing you can do, focus, remain the real you. Stop copying other. Be real you. If you are a copy can never be like original. There is no way. Copy remain copy always. Original remain original. Be original. And that is what I see in Mr. Pius Nsabe. Mr. Pius, thank you very much for your time on this broadcast this hour. I really appreciate it. God bless you. Keep doing the great job that you are doing. In the next coming 10 years, where do you see yourself in the what you are doing and some
I
other
see
things?
myself in a political office.
That's what I that's what I want to that's what I want to hear. That's what I want
Yes.
to hear. All right, keep it
Come.
up. We wish you good luck in the future. We talk some
Thank
more.
you.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. It was nice meeting you. God bless you.
Nice
To
meeting you too.
everyone, this is will be the end to the program for tonight. I will see you again by the grace of God tomorrow. I remain yours, Oludare Oluso, and this is Mr. Pius Nsabe, the head of news department, Pensioner FM, Agbarigo Nireke Ibadan. Live with us on the African Portal, the Global Voice, where we are talking about his journey, his life, his career, and the media space. Please, fake news is another problem of this generation. Don't spread it. Don't be part of it. Confirm the news before you share it. Don't share its news that you don't know. And don't be the carrier of fake news because that is causing a lot of problem in our society. That is another aspect that we didn't touch because of our time, but we will continue from there some other time when we meet again. Thank you very much, Mr. Pius. I really appreciate your time. Keep shining, keep smiling. God bless you.
Thank you.
Enjoy the rest of your nights, everyone, and we'll see you by the grace of God. I remain Joshua Oludare Oluson. For you to be part of what we are doing, you want to sponsor or you want to advertise, call me on +27 70333584. You can go to our website www.theafricanportal.co.za. If God have laid anything in your heart to be part of what we are doing in this house, kindly go ahead and do that. Support what we are doing. Africa will be great when we all put our hands together to work together as a team. God bless Africa. God bless every one of us. South Africa will be celebrating the Heritage Day on Friday. We will be part of that celebration as well. Please kindly be part of it. Watch all our program on the African Portal, and God bless every one of you. Enjoy this song from beautiful Nobia as we are stepping out of this broadcast. I'll see you by the grace of God tomorrow. We have a lot of program coming up tomorrow. Tonight, we are joining with Positive
You.
FM, United States of
Is there a link where
America.
we can pick it
Positive
later?
FM will
Open
be
it
on the
again.
African Portal Live tonight.
Okay, we
Please
can still go and view it
kindly
there.
be part of
Yeah.
that. Join it,
Just
watch
follow.
it,
Thank you.
and
Thanks a
let
lot.
it go viral. God bless you. This is beautiful Nobia on the African Portal Radio TV. God bless you. See you again soon and remain blessed. Keep watching, keep sharing. It's the African Portal Radio TV. Bye for now.
Wow. Wow. This is good. Hello. Eh,
In my journey through the world, over land and over sea, I see different cultures and different people's ways. I was born where the sun never sets, never rises. I was born where the heat is like a second skin. On the streets, fields are making noise. The land is growing dry and weak. Spirits dying low. For fathers are called weak in the my son, you were born to be great. Twilight, I went home behind my father with a hope, listening to the songs of birds. We stars of the night, I was singing seven birds, seven beats, seven carries, seven mountains, seven light. That's what I